Recording. And we are live, episode 25 of the RINO podcast. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, as always. I am with Caitlin at the Factual Prep, and it's Sunday morning. I've got my Starbucks. How you doing, Caitlin?
I'm doing pretty good, Geoff. How's it going?
Good.
Got my Starbucks, too.
You got the...
I got the Trenta this time.
Them inventing Trenta because Venti just wasn't enough. God bless capitalism. What do you think of I always ask for a straw. What do you think of the sippy cup?
I don't ask for a straw. I just get the sippy cup, and I'm fine with the sippy cup.
I'm not fine with the sippy cup. I like the straw.
But is that a paper straw?
No, it's plastic.
Oh, okay.
No, it's an actual plastic straw, which I swear to, if they start outlawing those, you notice how that kind of went away, like it happened for a second, almost like they were going to ban the plastic bags, and then I think
COVID happened. They brought them back.
Yeah, Yes. I think that had a lot to do with it because people didn't want to touch it. But I don't like the ice sloshing around back and forth when I drink it. Okay. See, now that I mentioned that, I'm going to ruin your iced coffee drinking experience.
No, so I will not be accepting a straw. I'm fine with the sippy cup regardless. But yeah,
but don't you feel like it's a little? I don't know what's the right word. Like infantilizing, right? You gotta have the sippy cup. We can't give you a straw because one got caught in a turtle's nose. That's where it came from, right?
No, I mean I don't care.
But it
because because the other lids on a Starbucks cup, if you're getting a hot coffee, is almost like a sippy cup too, right? Like,
yeah, but you don't sip hot coffee through a straw. Iced beverages, you need a straw. When you go to McDonald's, when you go to Chick-fil-A, you get a straw with your soda.
But a soda is not the same as iced coffee, though.
It's an iced beverage. And for Ben Rajadurai, your insane hot coffee take in the middle of July, no, iced coffee is glorious. It is so good. I actually look forward to the temperature getting above 60 degrees every year for the reason of iced coffee.
I guess I'm like a stone cold bitch because I like iced coffee year round. Even if it's 0 outside, I'm getting the iced coffee.
Hot coffee when it's cold, iced coffee when it's hot. Logic. That comes out of the Enlightenment.
Oh my God.
All right. Enough about coffee. Who wrote that? Voltaire?
Yeah. Rousseau.
Rousseau. It'd be a Rousseauian thing to do. To say. I can't wait. I'll wait for the integralists to get their opinion of what the traditional coffee what that should be like. All right, what a jam-packed week. Holy crow.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So my text blew up like late Friday night, I guess. What? Yeah. So it's Sunday morning, like late Friday night. My DMs were exploding with the news of the illustrious vice chairman of the Massachusetts GOP, Tom Mountain. All right. I'm going to read the headline for everybody because, all right, so credit to at Turtle Boy Sports, Aiden over there at Turtle Boy Sports, who somebody fed this to him. And this has got to be some Oppo research because they just fed it to him. So it says, Vice Chairman of the Mass GOP leaves tons of creepy comments for women on Facebook, including underage girls. Claims he was hacked. Okay. First of all, we know he wasn't hacked. I mean, well, we don't know he wasn't hacked, but we kind of know he wasn't hacked. Second, this is like such a boomer thing to do. This just is hilarious to me. And I'm going to scroll down here for the audience. So there's a bunch of pictures of Tom. Let's page down a little bit. Oh, here's Tom with Christy Nome, getting cozy with Don Jr. Happy birthday to Rumsfeld and Cheney. All right, and then we get to, I gotta say, there is a large group of conservative women who, you know, post the thirst trap pictures. And if you're a conservative guy and you follow them, one, you shouldn't really follow them. Two, you never comment, and you should never even hit the like button, because like it's just like they're looking to get themselves validated when they're doing all these ridiculous
I agree.
ridiculous pictures. And you know what? They're good-looking women. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you, Caitlin. I'll go, oh, okay, who's that? But after that, it's like, move on.
I mean, conservative women are just hotter than liberal women. It's just not a debate.
It's true.
I mean, we have scientific evidence that Republicans are better in the sack. They're more attractive. This is based on scientific studies where they have actually studied this.
I wish I had that Ron Burgundy clip. It's science.
I mean, it really, I hate saying it like this, but they're just hotter. So, well, yeah, I get it on that level. What I don't get is boomer men getting on Facebook and being weird.
Oh, God, it's so funny. I mean,
like, just don't comment.
Tom has just been a train wreck in the past few weeks. I'm gonna pull up.
He's a nice guy, but just don't comment, man. Come on.
It doesn't like even. Here's even the parameters of who should comment on those. Basically, other women and maybe gay guys. Because even if you're their age, even if you're like a good-looking guy who could wind up dating them, you shouldn't even comment, because then they you know, what, the Seinfeld episode, then they have hand in the relationship. Even if you know the girl in real life, IRL, you should not comment or anything like that. You shouldn't hit the like button. You shouldn't hit anything. You should just kind of like almost ignore it if that's your play, because it is just a desperate thirst trap, and they're looking for you to, they're looking for other people to validate them. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. On the other hand, all right, so there's a couple things here. So Tom Mountain has been, oh God, Christ. All right. I mean, this has been a Tom Mountain 48 hours. I'm going to pull something up. Let me set it up. This is from, I want to say, all right, so July 8th, so that's Thursday, right? All right, so let's play this. Let me see. Let's play this. This is from last week.
The Department has gone to court to overturn the Georgia law, but yesterday a federal judge denied a motion to delay the law's implementation.
Okay, so this is a GBH thing hosted by Adam Riley on voter ID. I'm going to fast forward. Okay. All right, so here we are. On screen is Tom Mountain on the left, and
by Rasan Hall, the director of the Racial Justice Program at the ACLU of Massachusetts.
Okay, we're not going to get into voter ID in this episode. We're just going to get into
Yeah, we can do that later.
All right, so Tom's in his car. Tom's in his car, and he's in a suit and tie in his car on local TV as vice chair of the Republican Party here in Massachusetts.
It's kind of a, right, Geoff. I mean, it is a SMH, smack my head kind of moment where the vice chair of the state GOP can't do an interview in a place where, you know, he can actually do one. Instead, he's in his car, and decline
the interview. Decline the interview, man. Tom, what are you doing? This isn't a good look. You don't look good. I know everybody wants to kind of get on camera and be on TV, and Jim's screwing up, so you think you're stepping in there and being the voice of the party. This is not how we need the voice of the party to look, to creep on girls, and to do interviews from his car. And let me bring up Tom Mountain's other greatest hits here. This is from a couple of weeks ago, or I should say last month. So let's do this and play this for the audience. This is from an interview with NBC Boston, and here we go.
Well, that's what the vice chair of the party is here for, to pick up the slack and to assume a role that needs to be assumed when it needs to be assumed.
Have you spoken to Jim Lyons about this?
No, he never returns my calls, and I'm the vice chair. Well,
okay. Remember that doozy from a couple weeks ago? He's the vice chair. No, he never returns my calls. Oh, boy. All right. I'm going to put in on a plea here. Caitlin mentioned this before the broadcast. Evan, can you just start going on TV and doing interviews, please? Can we just, we know where we all stand in terms of the party, but can we stop the bleeding?
I think it's clear where the communications need to come from, and they need to come from one person. And I think sometimes that's not happening. It just needs to start happening. It needs to be a centralized source of information. And that person needs to be on TV and doing interviews in a professional manner.
Yep. Evan would be fine. Just empower Evan. Just empower Evan to go out there. I don't know why he wasn't doing it before. He's comms director.
No, Evan's a smart guy. He should be in front of the camera. It should be a centralized source. It really should be. Just
enough. Just enough, Tom. Yeah. Tom, you're not allowed to go in front of the media again. You're not allowed to do that. Thank you for your service. And stop commenting on hot girls' pictures. How about that? How about we just do that? And for the folks who think this is like kind of creepy, gross, inappropriate behavior, old man doing it. It's low on the level, of bad things. But, when members of the state committee engage in inappropriate behavior or say inappropriate things, we can reprimand them, and it doesn't have to become a free speech issue like was claimed with Deb Martell a few weeks ago. It's like, yeah, Tom has every right to say, ooh, looking good on to some 24-year-old babe's picture. But is it appropriate? No. And the same thing to a more severe degree applies with what went down a few weeks ago. I don't know. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. All right. Anything else on Tom?
No, dude, stay off Facebook. Just stay off.
Yeah.
Just don't comment, or just come on Twitter, like where I can just tell you straight to your face that you need to stop commenting.
I had an idea.
Again, I'm sure you're a nice guy. Just stay off Facebook. Just stay off.
He is a nice person. Okay. I mean, when you interact with him, he's a pleasant guy, but clearly, I mean,
stay off Facebook.
So clearly the other females on the committee.
Don't.
It's such a boomer thing.
It's such a boomer hellhole. Like, Geoff, this is the reason why I'm on Twitter.
Oh God. No, Facebook's for like family pics.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Like I upload articles. Like that's all I do.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Looks like Geoff Diehl is running for governor. Now, Caitlin, as the saying goes, the best time to announce a political campaign is over a holiday weekend with no media there, to a captive audience in the least populated part of the state, and not even letting your core supporters know. That is, from what I understand, that's the way to announce you're running for governor. Oh, God. Let's play this.
Governor Charlie Baker still has not announced if he plans to run for a third term next year. But if he does jump into the race, he's already got a primary challenger to contend with. Fellow Republican Geoff Diehl, who served as a state rep for 8 years, helped lead a successful effort on the ballot to repeal the indexing of the gas tax to inflation, co-chaired the campaign of Donald Trump here in 2016, and ran against Senator Elizabeth Warren in 2018. He launched his gubernatorial bid on Sunday. He joins me now. Geoff Diehl, it's good to see you. It's been quite a while.
Great to see you, Jim. Thank you.
Why are you doing this, Geoff?
You know what? I ran in 2010 for state rep because I thought I could make a difference for the town I live in, for the towns I represented. I got to see a lot more when I got to Beacon Hill about what's going on in the state, and I got to see a lot more in 2018 when I ran for U.S. Senate. I think I've got still something to give for Massachusetts, and I'd like to obviously run in the Republican primary, and then if I have an opponent, and then take my case to the people for 2022.
But it's pretty obvious that if you're running.
All right. Why do you think he's running, Caitlin?
I really don't know, because, I mean, you probably have your theories, but I mean, to be quite honest, like, I just can't see a win coming out of this. So why?
I have theories why, but it just, I mean, none of them are, have any logic behind them. I guess Jim and Rick want him to run. But there's,
It just shows the schism. Like, that's all I'm seeing out of this, is it shows the schism in the state GOP between the Baker. I don't even want to say Baker people and like Trump people, but like at some point, like, why can't we all get on the same page and be friends again? It just doesn't make any sense, and it's hurting us like electorally all across the board.
Yeah. What is odd to me is, like, even so this time around, you know, there were a lot of people. I voted for Geoff in 2018 for Senate.
So did I.
You know, I helped when he ran for state Senate and lost there. I was helping run to the YRs, and we organized door knocking. So I helped campaign for him. And that was a disaster then. It was like, just the campaign was disorganized with even door knocking for a state Senate race. But anyway, so, like, I don't have anything personal against Geoff. And this interview, I don't think it went very well. But there is really no reason for him to do this. He's not going to beat Baker in the primary.
Yeah.
It's just not going, the numbers aren't there. So why put yourself through this? You know, some people are saying it's like a grift for campaign money. And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. I just think it's more ego. But all right, we'll keep playing it. Here we go.
And particularly if you're announcing before the incumbent Republican announces that you think that he's not doing some things the way he should, that you would do differently. Give me an example or two of things that fall into that category.
Well, I mean, let's start with the fact that in 2014, I led the repeal of the index gas tax. At that time, candidate Baker was with me on that. Now he's proposing TCI, which even the Sierra Club is saying is really not going to create the environmental impact that people were hoping. It's really going to be more of just an additional tax on commuters. It's going to cost more for families. So, you know,
I actually agree with this. I'll say that. I don't think TCI is a good idea, and all the other states are like pulling out of it. You know, it's like a cap and trade agreement between the states, since the federal government couldn't get it done. I would agree with him here, but it's not. But the other thing is, now it's not going to get implemented because all these other states have pulled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean,
now.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's the only state. Massachusetts is the only state currently hanging on to this TCI thing. I think he needs to let it go, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. That's just one example.
But the underlying goal there is to limit carbon pollution, reduce emissions. Even if you don't like the way he would get there, do you share the goal?
An unelected bureaucratic body decides what the cap and trade cost is going to be that gets passed on to people. I don't like that, the way it's set up. And I also think, again, Sierra Club says the benefits to the environment are negligible.
You know, Geoff, you also...
You notice he didn't answer the question, right?
Mm.
So this is something Geoff does. It's like where he could be better, a lot better at just answering the question honestly. There's a few more of these in this interview, and Jim's horrible for not following up. You know, you could, of course, I share the goal. Yeah, but we should be getting there with smarter plan. You know, smarter. You got to know how to like dodge it a little bit, but not completely dodge it. And you say, yeah, we should be looking at maximizing natural gas. exploring nuclear power, looking at efficiencies like that, all those kinds of things. Those are good Republican answers that satisfy what the goal is. You don't have to dodge it completely. And but he's not. The response isn't factually incorrect. It just misses the mark.
So I know I've criticized the governor's handling of COVID. Where did he get it wrong that you would have gotten it right?
Well, right off the bat, a lot of people who own small businesses either had to lay off their employees or furlough them. Small businesses were shut down immediately. I saw 0 layoffs, 0 furloughs from state government. Even when we have storms, there's non-essential employees that go home. Nobody was non-essential in state government. So there was no sort of reciprocity or alignment with the people who basically are working in the private sector from the state side. I thought that was one initial mistake. Obviously, the rollout of the vaccine scheduling was another problem. And I think, again, we've seen with the Soldiers' Home, there was issues with how we managed, people with, the state managed patients with COVID.
Do you hold Charlie Baker responsible for the death of 76, actually 77, counting 1 year later, deaths at that Soldiers' Home?
You know what? I also don't hold him responsible for the death of those 7, Marines that were killed when the RMV didn't pull the license of that person. But I do think it's his administration that failed at the RMV. I think they failed with the Holyoke home.
Stop. Yeah. I mean, he's saying he holds Charlie Baker responsible without saying it. I think he's doing that without saying that he's going to hold a fellow Republican responsible. Yeah, that's what I got from this. This
is something the left would do.
Yeah.
This is something the left would do. So this is, I don't hold, I didn't hold Barack Obama personally responsible for the terrorist attack in Benghazi, and even Hillary Clinton. What I held them responsible for was the response to it. Okay.
Oh, so yeah. I actually have an opinion on that. I don't hold Barack Obama responsible, but I do hold Hillary Clinton responsible when she knew that embassy was under threat. But I do agree with the point.
The response to it. I mean, and then that's included both after the fact and during. How you act once you know what you know.
Right.
The accident with the RMV issues and the accident that occurred that caused the deaths of those service members, the Veterans Home in Holyoke. Now, those are incidents that happen. Lots of bad, awful things happen. How you respond to it after the fact is critical, right?
Right.
So, Baker becomes aware of it. He immediately addresses it with the instance of the Holyoke Veterans Home. As opposed to somebody like Cuomo, who knows the facts, sends people back into the nursing homes because he doesn't want to overwhelm the hospitals and causes more of a problem and more deaths. Okay, there's 2 glaring examples, right, of the right call and the wrong call of an administration. So right there, Geoff's attacking him from the left, meaning he doesn't hold them responsible, but his administration he doesn't hold him responsible, but his administration sort of is. It's the response to
right.
It.
You're throwing the aides under the bus there without. Yeah. I mean, okay. I'll be perfectly honest. You do hold him responsible, and you're throwing his aides under the bus because you don't want to hit him personally, so you don't want to get ugly. Like that's kind of where I'm like sitting here watching this, and I'm like, stop bullshitting me. Like, come on, be straightforward, be honest. Just say that you did not agree with the way that he handled COVID at all. And if you want to come up with specific reasons as to why that is the case, then just say it. We know that that's what your point is. So just don't beat around the bush.
And furthermore, I might agree with him. I didn't, the response to small businesses, while in real time, I was disagreeing with the governor. I mean, I tweet stuff out. I had my little, plan I wrote up for a phased approach, wrote it up in April. Lo and behold, the one they announced in May, my plan had 3 phases. There had 4, but, it seemed like the logical approach to how to reopen the state. I don't think it was as aggressive as I would have liked. But there's a point there for the small businesses, for sure. for sure. And a lot of small business owners are upset with the governor for that, but it was an extraordinary case, an extraordinary event. Event. And, we still didn't know a lot in the middle of 2020, in spring 2020. We're still figuring this out. We're even close to a vaccine. So, he's got
the things last summer that I got really frustrated on. Like, I've been honest on Twitter about working in pools. The administration asked that we wear masks outside at a pool. You didn't have to wear masks basically walking around outside for a long time in the summer, which I thought was ridiculous. So they didn't differentiate between outdoor and indoor pools on their pool regulations when they should have. And again, like, if you want to talk to experts, I'm an expert. My DMs are open on aquatics, so you could always call me up. And it's kind of those kind of things where I think that they probably didn't look at the minor details of. I do understand maybe like the gym situation that would be frustrating for a small business owner. I don't understand the reciprocity with the small business owners and state government. Like, there needs to be a state response when something like this happens. And so if we lose people working in the state, you're not going to be able to open the economy again. And so that's where I'm like, you're undercutting the government response where they need to respond. That is their role. This was a circumstance where the government had to respond. Yeah. So I don't understand that criticism as well.
Like I said, he's criticizing him from the left, but from the right would be like your example. What erodes trust in government is arbitrary laws. Passing the executive order that says people need to wear masks outside.
At a pool.
Right. But when
you're covered in a disinfectant.
Where you really need them to wear them inside more to mitigate the risk. And now there's a lot of science that says they really didn't do that much, but I guess it's a mitigation effort. But if you really want people to wear them inside, you shouldn't really say that you should wear them outside and inside. You should emphasize that it's inside. When you go outside, take it off. That way, there's logic behind it, there's science behind it, and people begin to trust your opinion and judgment on the situation. Now, that's a perfectly reasonable critique of what happened here and across the country, and that's from the right. You'd be criticizing him, and it makes sense, and it actually bolsters our argument. In the long term. Right.
Do we want to keep going?
Yeah, no, there's more. Let's keep going.
I think the last part is the best part of this interview.
All right, we'll see if we can skip around, but we got a few minutes left.
You mentioned small businesses. In your announcement, you said, and I remain mystified, how the big box stores like Home Depot remained open while your local hardware store was forced to close. My local hardware store was open, and they told me when I walked in they were an essential business. What are you talking about?
Well, look, not every small business was able to get that essential clarification or status, whatever it was. I mean, let's face it, it's been pretty recognized that across the country and in Massachusetts, the big box stores were left open while the smaller businesses were forced to suffer and be closed. My wife and I own a small business. We were forced to close. Yeah. But, we adapted immediately to the technology and got kids online for dance classes of all things with Zoom. I think that the private sector was able to be resilient, but really not without a lot of interference by government.
Well, you also mentioned the vaccination.
Time out, though. Just real quick. You got to, if you're going to say hardware stores specifically, you have to have that right.
I was able to go to Abishan for the entire time.
Yeah, there's an Ace nearby. They were able to stay open.
Yeah, the Ace in Marblehead, I think, didn't shut down for a long time.
The Ace in Marblehead was
not. I think it was for a little bit, but then it ended up opening once they were. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I do, but here's the thing. It's like, so there's two ways to go that. You can go, Jim, you're like, I don't know. Well, good for your hardware store. The hardware store down the street from me was closed. Okay, and then I don't
remember Home Depot ever closing. I actually live closer to Home Depot.
Home Depot didn't close. Home Depot didn't close. The big essential stores.
And I don't remember Abishan and North Beverly closing either. So why are we? I just don't. In this case, you need to be specific about what you're talking about with essential businesses. you can't say that essential businesses were closed when they weren't. Like, clearly, no. Like, the grocery stores were open the entire time.
Yep.
Hardware stores are considered essential businesses. They were open the entire time that I know of. I mean, and if small business is your thing, like, that's fine. But I think that this is not really the wedge that you need to use to wedge yourself between you and Charlie Baker.
So, he and his wife own a dance studio. And I know if your kids,
I get that. That's awful.
Yeah, if your kids take dance,
yeah,
it's not technically essential. I'll give them that, and that's fine. But you can't. Here's the thing: either when Browdy comes at you with that, you got to be good enough to say, "Well, my hardware store was open." We'll be like, "Good, Jim. Good for your hardware store. They were able to navigate the bureaucracy and you put very well, but the hardware store by me wasn't, and it took them 6 weeks or whatever it was to get back up and running." If that example is correct, if it's not correct, don't use that example. Or if you didn't use that example, you got to be able to push back on Browdy and say, "No, Jim, hang on. That's not what I said. I said small businesses. I didn't use hardware stores as an example." Or, hardware store down the street.
And I agree with that, because some of the questions Browdy asked during this interview were not good. They were not, and to Geoff's credit, they were questions out of left field, and he had to respond to them. But you have to learn how to respond to them in appropriate ways.
And what will gain you more credit, anybody more credit, when you're dealing with Browdy, is to push back on him. Don't expect he may not have you back
on any journalist that asks you any question.
They are not our friends.
Yeah,
they never will be. Don't be nice about this stuff anymore. And
that's what. Yeah, I mean, that's why Ron DeSantis and Charlie Baker are. They have the favorables. They do push back on this, and they do correct the record, right? So if that were the case, you need to correct the record. Press back. Like, you can. Like, we want you to.
It'd be better TV. And if Jim doesn't have you back on, believe me, that's no loss. You're not getting more votes because of Jim Browdy being on his show. And also, it'll be better for you in the long run because you'll have gained some credibility with people who are willing to push back on a lot of the false premises.
I mean, in the center right, if that's what you're running towards, we don't trust the media already. So press back. And then but my other big thing on this was hitting Baker for the vaccination rollout when
He's about to get into that. So
okay, let's go ahead and get into that.
Screw up at the beginning, which he acknowledged. We have now one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. Does he deserve credit for that?
We also have the third highest, per capita death rate. I mean, does he deserve blame for that?
So, Geoff, there was a reason.
Again, go ahead.
That was a low blow. That was low. That was the one that when I was watching this originally, that is the one comment that got me. If that were the case, and that was the question.
Again, from the left.
Yeah, I mean, you punched from the left there, saying that basically you said before that Charlie Baker was not responsible for the deaths of COVID, and then you basically say that he is right here. That's not okay. You know that he's not responsible for those deaths. We know that the situation without the vaccine was impossible. That's low. It's just low.
Yeah.
It was not unnecessary. That's not a Republican response. That's you being a politician.
Let's keep going.
Recent poll in the Globe, Suffolk poll in the Globe, talking about the direction the state is going in. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Democrats, who are a third of the electorate, 79-12 said right direction. Independents, they're 57% of the electorate, unenrolled. 60-26. The only group that was roughly a dead heat were Republicans. Only 10% of the electorate are Republicans. Obviously, that's under Baker's leadership. Who is the Diehl voter? Where do you find? It's not enough to get Republicans to vote for you to end up being elected governors. You know far better than I. Who is the Diehl voter in this mix where overwhelmingly people support the governor and think we're moving in the right direction?
Well, Jim, this may shock you. I don't know if you checked these numbers, but I was actually the third highest vote getter in 2018, even though there was a distance between myself and Elizabeth Warren.
So you need the independents.
No, but listen, did you hear what he just said? He was the third highest vote getter. Jim, who's this? I mean, sorry, Geoff, who's the second? the guy you're probably going to primary. I mean, look, if this is if the tack to this is Elizabeth Warren came in first, who he mentions there, and then Charlie Baker, and not by much. The discrepancy between the Baker voters and Warren, what wasn't that much, like 10 or 20,000 votes, I think. I guess the play is here to maybe Baker doesn't run, and you announce and you're there. But other than that, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we need Charlie to probably signal that he's going to announce. He's waiting but time, but interviews like this don't impress me. When you basically try to say that he's at fault for the people who died of COVID in the state of Massachusetts after saying that he wasn't, and then it's just, I mean, Geoff, I think we're on the same page. I'm Team Baker all the way. I will be voting for him in the primary. And if,
let's skip
So the fact of the matter is, people know who I am. They know what I stand for. I think they appreciate it. And this state will elect someone who is a Republican governor. I may be center right. Charlie Baker may govern center left. But I think given the choice of who the Democratic nominee may be, center right may be, what they're looking for.
Let me use your word.
So he's trying to label Charlie Baker as center left?
Correct.
That's ridiculous.
Geoff is right.
Yeah, I think he's trying to shift the labels because he knows that the state GOP right now is having like some labeling issues and they're having some PR issues. They know that. They have to know that.
Yeah.
But saying that Charlie Baker is center left, what are you talking about? He literally vetoed that Roe Act, and then he's done a lot of center right initiatives.
Hillary Clinton is arguing. No, Bill Kristol is center left now. Baker's been about center right as you can get. Like if there's a sliding scale. If the zero demarcation line, he is to the right of it. He's not to the left of it.
Yes.
Especially given how the Overton window has shifted with what the left has done. All right, let's keep going.
Words, you said what we stand for. The Republican State Committee, the party here, the chair of the party refused to listen to Governor Baker, and I believe every Republican elected to the legislature with one exception, saying they should get rid of a committee member who said she was, quote, sickened by the fact that a Republican candidate for Congress in the Worcester area actually had adopted kids. He was gay. He and his partner adopted kids. Baker said she should be thrown off the committee. The chair of the state committee said it was a free speech issue. Which side are you on there?
So first of all, I totally side with the candidate. Jeffrey Sousa, very nice guy, lovely family, absolutely support his run for Congress. Secondly, I think the state committee woman who made the comments was wrong in what she said. The biggest problem we have is that our bylaws don't permit for removal of a member for free speech. And I understand that speech may not be anything that anybody agrees with. All I'm saying is there is nothing in our bylaws that allows for removal.
In 2016, as I said in your introduction.
That's a fair answer.
I think that's actually a really good answer. And if that had been the talking point,
that was a better answer than. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think I agree. I think that's a better answer than what Jim gave and what Tom gave. I think that if that had been the talking point that came from the state GOP the entire time, because it doesn't. If you support her, like that's fine. It's not fine in my personal opinion, but whatever. I mean, that's a statement that doesn't throw her under the bus. Do you know what I mean? Like
right.
It's
right, but and along those lines, but Jim doesn't support Jeffrey Sousa Paquette, so that's the critical difference here. So good on Geoff for doing that, but since Jim doesn't do it, he had to side with that and not even mention flat out in a clear, concise way, that he supports the candidate, because he doesn't support the candidate like Geoff Diehl does. So, good on him for that answer. That was a good answer.
I think if that had been the comment or the talking point, the state GOP would be in a better position.
Yeah, and it would have gone away a lot quicker. And you might have gotten
spiraled out of control.
Yeah, and you would have had why am I blanking on his name? Dan Crenshaw. You could like all that stuff would have not have taken place. But all right, let's go.
You were co-chair of Massachusetts Trump for president. If he were to choose to run again in 2024, he said he's made up his mind. He's not going to tell us for a while. Would you? And he offered you the same position. Would you take it?
You know, hypotheticals are crazy, right? First of all, I don't think I'd be allowed on the show again if I endorsed Donald Trump, right? Is that right?
No, by the way, I don't know if you recall, you were chair in 2016, and you're on the show now, and you're on the chair then. So that is irrelevant. Would you accept the offer if it was made in 2024?
I don't think he's running, so I think it's a hypothetical that's not even exist.
No hypothetical. He says he won the election. It was stolen. Is he right?
No, look, those states, obviously, they've got to clear, sort out if they had any problems with voting. But look, I don't think it was a stolen election. I just think that, again, at this point, we need to move forward, stop crying over spilled milk as a Republican Party, and look towards the future of who's going to be the best candidate for 2024.
That was a better answer. The first part of the answer, he dodged too much, which you could say he pushed on it in a laughing way, but he really should have what's going to get him more credit with a Republican primary voter base is if he goes back after Browdy and be like, Jim, stop it with the hypotheticals, okay? Trump, stop it with the hypotheticals, and you answer honestly like, I don't know, maybe. But then this was actually a good answer. He pushed. Well, I'm glad he thinks that the election wasn't stolen, because if he did, he'd actually have to hesitate, or if he thinks his supporters wouldn't vote for him if he didn't say that. Even though he might think it personally. But good on him for saying that it wasn't stolen. So, getting better at the end here.
If you had been elected to the Senate, had beaten Elizabeth Warren, would you have voted for that bipartisan commission on January 6th that was rejected by all the Republicans there?
Jim, you know my history in the legislature. I've actually voted for more transparency all the time. I think that, yes, I would have voted for a commission to make sure that we get to the bottom, good or bad or ugly. Let's figure it out and not let it happen again.
That's an interesting response.
I would not have voted for that. Either. And I would have, okay. Good to know.
That's an interesting response from someone allied with the Trump people. I wouldn't have voted for it based on Pelosi being Speaker of the House and federal agencies already taking care of it, and everyone's already arrested. No one's thinking about this, and it's not a huge political issue. So, yeah.
500 people have been arrested. Like, we know what happened. It's entirely political. Okay, so, he thinks that. I disagree with that.
So, Geoff, one more hypothetical that you don't like, but that's the nature of the business. You're running potentially against Charles.
Oh, by the way, the last question, like, no follow up from Browdy. It's just like rattling off the questions, let him answer, and then like very, very little.
Another hypothetical, another one.
Baker. Again, we don't know if he's will announce. Let's assume he does run. Let's assume he does win the primary, and he's the Republican candidate for governor of Massachusetts for a third time. Would he have your support?
Of course. Look, I supported him in 2010, 14, 18, even after the debate when he said he wasn't sure he was going to support me in 2018 for U.S. Senate. I still supported him. Look, it's about putting the best candidate forward that the Republican Party can, and if he becomes the nominee, absolutely, I'll be behind him.
So, Geoff, you'll be back here again when you're invited. Is that correct?
Hope it's often.
Geoff, it's great to see you. Congratulations.
All right. Well, okay. Good answer on that. That's fine.
Republican thing, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
I wish the Republican Party would go back to that, being like, if I lose a primary, I'm honorable enough to support the Republican in the race against the Democrat. I wish Republicans would go back to that. So good on Geoff for saying it.
Good. All right. I mean, the first part of that, the first half of that interview was not great, but also, Geoff, going on Greater Boston with Jim's audience, it's not going to serve you necessarily well in the primary. If that's what your goal is, any politician, like any Republican running, in Massachusetts needs to be more forthright and challenge them and take on the establishment, especially whether it's GBH radio or TV, to get our point across. And it will get you more support from the voters, whether they be primary voters or general election voters. Because, you know, I don't think Browdy is held in esteem in a very, very small bubble of the media and of the populace. Anyway, all right, that's it for this episode of the RINO podcast. We're going to switch on over to the Patreon. Join the patreon.com/RINOpod, patreon.com/RINOpod. Thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.